Good evening, dear listener. My name is Lady Novelist, and tonight I invite you into a world of storytelling, a realm where the boundaries of imagination dissolve and the worries of the day gently fade away. As a writer and storyteller from Romania, it is my honor to guide you through a tale crafted not just for entertainment, but for your deep relaxation. Before we begin, I encourage you to settle into your bed, allowing its soft embrace to cradle you. Feel its warmth, its support, a steadfast friend at the end of a long day. Let the weight of the blankets soothe you, wrapping you in a cocoon of safety and comfort. Breathe deeply, savoring each breath as it carries away the tension that may linger in your body. With every exhale, imagine releasing the worries, the noise, the rush that often fills our days. As I tell this story, let the sound of my voice be your guide. Let the words wash over you like a gentle river, carrying you closer to the shores of sleep. You do not need to hold on to every detail. This is not a story you must analyze or remember. It is simply a gentle lullaby for your mind, a pathway to dreams. My tales are rooted in the rich traditions of Romania, yet they wander far beyond, into realms of wonder and peace. Tonight's story will transport you to a place where magic lingers, where serenity reigns, and where you can release the weight of the waking world. Now, close your eyes, dear listener, and let your imagination unfurl. Together, we will journey into a story crafted to bring you rest, peace, and the sweetest of dreams. Chapter 1: A Gift in the Snow. The wind howled through the barren branches of the forest, its icy breath biting into the skin of anyone brave or foolish enough to face it. Snow blanketed the earth, a thick, unyielding layer that muffled the sounds of life. Save for the occasional groan of a tree bending under the weight of winter. Beneath the ashen sky, a lone figure trudged forward, a sturdy axe slung over his shoulder. Stefan pulled his woolen scarf tighter around his face, his breath forming clouds that dissipated almost instantly in the chill air. The forest was his domain, its twists and turns as familiar to him as the lines on his weathered hands. But today it felt different. The weight of the cold seemed heavier, the silence sharper, as though the woods were holding their breath. He needed wood, thick, dry logs that would keep the hearth burning for his son Eric. The boy was waiting back home, bundled in layers and tucked away in their small cottage. Stefan had promised him a warm evening, a stew on the fire, and stories to chase away the frost. As he pressed on, his boots crunching through the snow, Stefan noticed a peculiar stillness ahead. The forest always whispered, even in the dead of winter. Yet now it was as if the trees themselves had frozen mid-conversation. Then he saw it. A shadow moved, low and laboring. He squinted, his gloved hand shading his eyes from the glare of the snow. There, among the pines, a massive shape wavered, a buffalo. Its dark coat was matted with frost, steam rising faintly from its laboring breath. By its side, a smaller figure stumbled, a calf, barely old enough to stand on its spindly legs. Stefan hesitated. Buffaloes were rarely steep in the woods, especially in winter. As he approached cautiously, the scene became clearer. The mother buffalo's flank was streaked with blood, a deep gash marring her powerful body. Her breath came in shallow, trembling gasps, and her eyes, wide and dark, met his. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Stefan felt the weight of her gaze, a mixture of pain and something else, pleading. The calf nudged her side, its tiny bleats sharp and desperate in the stillness. "I can't leave you like this," Stefan murmured, though he wasn't sure if the words were for the animal or himself. He dropped his axe into the snow and crouched slowly. The mother buffalo's legs wobbled as she lowered herself to the ground, her massive frame sinking into the snow. To Stefan's amazement, the buffalo nudged her calf toward him. It stumbled, its eyes wide with fright, but its tiny hooves carried it forward. The mother let out a low guttural sound, a sound filled with resolve. "She's entrusting you," Stefan whispered, awed. The buffalo's breath came slower now, each exhale a puff of white against the frozen air. Stefan didn't understand how or why, but he felt the depth of her intention. This calf, small and shivering, was her final act of hope. "I'll care for him," Stefan promised, his voice trembling with both cold and emotion. With great effort, he wrapped the calf in his thick coat and hoisted it against his chest. It was lighter than he expected, its frail body warm against his own. When he turned back to the mother, her eyes were closed, her body still. Stefan bowed his head, a gesture of respect and gratitude. Then he began the long journey home, the calf cradled close, its tiny heart beating against his. Eric was staring out the frost-covered window when he saw his father appear through the swirling snow. The boy leapt from his stool, nearly knocking over the kettle on the hearth. He threw open the door, the cold rushing in like an unwelcome guest. "Papa," he called, his voice bright and eager. "Did you find the wood?" Stefan stepped inside, shaking snow from his coat. His face was flushed red from the cold, but his eyes held an odd light. "Not just wood, my boy," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. He lowered the bundle in his arms, revealing the small calf nestled inside. Eric gasped, his eyes as round as saucers. "A buffalo!" he exclaimed, dropping to his knees beside the creature. "It's a calf," Stefan explained, his tone gentle. "I found him in the forest. His mother, she's gone now, but I promised her I'd care for him. He's ours, Eric." The boy reached out tentatively, his small hand brushing against the calf's coarse fur. The creature bleated softly, nuzzling into Eric's touch. A grin spread across the boy's face, lighting up the dim room. "I'll name him Chub," Eric declared, his voice resolute, "because he's small and round like a little snowball." Stefan chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. "Chub it is, then." From that moment, Eric and Chub were inseparable. The calf followed the boy everywhere, its tiny hooves clicking softly against the wooden floor of the cottage. They played together in the snow, Eric's laughter ringing through the crisp air as Chub tried, and often failed, to bound through the drifts. But there was something unusual about Chub. Stefan noticed it first. The calf's wounds from the cold and rough journey healed remarkably fast, its energy growing day by day. And then there was the way it looked at Eric, its dark eyes holding a spark of intelligence far beyond that of an ordinary animal. One night, as the fire crackled in the hearth and Eric dozed with Chub curled at his feet, Stefan watched them with a mixture of unease and wonder. The calf seemed to glow faintly in the firelight, its breathing calm and steady. "Who are you, little one?" Stefan murmured, but Chub, of course, didn't answer. For Eric, Chub was simply his best friend, a playmate, a confidant, a source of joy in the bleakness of winter. What he didn't know, what even Stefan couldn't yet understand, was that Chub carried within him a magic as ancient as the forest itself, a magic that would reveal itself in ways neither father nor son could have imagined. Chapter 2: The Plains of Heaven. The years that followed were filled with joy and wonder, though neither Eric nor his father could have predicted the secrets hidden within their small family's newest member. From the moment Chub entered their lives, the harshness of winter seemed less biting, and the long days of summer stretched endlessly in golden delight. Eric and Chub were inseparable, and wherever the boy wandered, the calf was sure to follow. Stefan had cleared a patch of land on the edge of the mountain forest where the grass grew tall and lush, a perfect place for Chub to graze. Eric called it the Glade of the Mountain, a name that seemed to hum with magic when he whispered it to Chub as they walked there each day. The glade became their sanctuary, a place where the worries of the world couldn't touch them. Eric would stretch out beneath the old oak tree at its center, his hands clasped behind his head, and watch the clouds drift lazily across the sky. Chub would wander the glade, nibbling on grass or playfully butting his soft horns against Eric's side to coax him into laughter. But Chub had secrets. One warm summer afternoon, while Eric lay dozing in the tall grass, Chub stood still, his dark eyes fixed on the horizon. The light of the setting sun reflected in his coat, casting an otherworldly sheen. With a single graceful leap, Chub rose from the ground, not into the air of the glade, but into the heavens themselves. The sky unfolded before him, a vast shimmering plain where stars sparkled like dew on grass. Here in this celestial field, Chub grazed. Each star he nibbled filled him with power, a radiant energy that thrummed through his enchanted body. These were not ordinary stars. They carried the whispers of ancient magic, a force that bound the heavens to the earth. Chub returned before Eric woke, his hooves touching down in the glade as silently as a snowflake. To Eric, it seemed as though his friend's coat gleamed a little brighter, and his steps felt a little lighter after those moments of celestial grazing. But the boy thought nothing of it. Years passed, and both boy and buffalo grew strong. Eric transformed from a skinny child into a tall, broad-shouldered young man with a kind heart and a ready laugh. Chub, once a gangly calf, now stood majestic, his horns curling gracefully and his coat shining like polished onyx. They were a pair unlike any other in the village, and though whispers of Chub's unusual nature sometimes reached Eric's ears, he dismissed them. Chub is just Chub, he would say with a grin. That's all he needs to be. But Chub was more than Eric could imagine. One crisp autumn evening, as Eric fed Chub beside the cottage, a messenger arrived from the emperor's court. The man's face was grim as he relayed the news. The emperor's daughter had been taken by a dragon, the messenger said, his voice trembling. She is imprisoned in a tower atop the Black Mountain, guarded by flames and shadows. The emperor has promised her hand in marriage and half the kingdom to any who can free her. The village erupted with murmurs of excitement and fear. Dozens of emperor's sons had already attempted to rescue her, but none had returned. When the messenger left, Eric sat silently by the fire, staring into the flames. The idea of rescuing the princess seemed impossible. What chance did the woodcutter's son have against a dragon? But that night, as Eric slept, Chub spoke for the first time. "Eric," he said, his voice soft but commanding. Eric jolted awake, his heart pounding. He blinked, staring at Chub in disbelief. Did you just talk? Yes, Chub said with a tilt of his head. I've been waiting for the right moment, and that moment has come. Eric rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was still dreaming. Why now? What's so important? Chub stepped closer, his dark eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. The Emperor's daughter needs us. You and I are the only ones who can rescue her. Eric's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. She's guarded by a dragon. And you're a buffalo. A buffalo, yes, Chub replied, his voice steady. But not an ordinary one. You've seen it, haven't you? The way I've healed quickly, the way I shine brighter after a trip to the glade. I'm not of this world entirely, Eric. I am enchanted, and with my magic we can defeat the dragon. Eric stared at his friend, the weight of Chub's words settling over him. Memories of Chub's uncanny abilities flickered through his mind. For years he'd dismissed them, chalking them up to coincidence or youthful imagination. Now he wasn't so sure. Why me? Eric finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Because you have the courage, the kindness, and the strength to succeed where others have failed, Chub said. And because we are a team, together we can do this. Eric looked into Chub's eyes, and for the first time, he saw the depth of the bond they shared. Not just as boy and buffalo, but as something far greater. He took a deep breath and nodded. All right, he said. I'll do it. We'll do it. Chub nuzzled Eric's shoulder affectionately. Then rest well tonight, my friend. Tomorrow we begin our greatest adventure. As Eric drifted back to sleep, he felt a strange sense of peace. For all his doubts and fears, he trusted Chub. And though he couldn't yet see the path ahead, he knew that together they would find a way. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight kissed the mountaintops, and Eric and Chub prepared to set out on their journey. Stefan watched them from the doorway of the cottage, his expression a mixture of pride and worry. Be careful, he said, gripping Eric's shoulder, and trust in Chub. He's always been special, though I couldn't say how. I will, Papa, Eric promised. We'll bring her back. As Eric climbed onto Chub's back, he felt a surge of confidence. The buffalo beneath him stood tall and unshakable, his presence as steady as the mountains themselves. With a final wave to his father, Eric and Chub set off toward the horizon, their hearts set on the tower of the Black Mountain. Unbeknownst to Eric, their journey would take them far beyond anything he had ever known, to the edge of the world and into the very heart of magic itself. Chapter 3. The Journey to the Tower. The Emperor's laughter echoed through the grand hall, bouncing off its golden walls and marble floors. Eric stood before him, his plain woolen clothes and calloused hands a stark contrast to the finery surrounding him. At his side was Chub, calm and unyielding, his dark eyes locked on the Emperor's face. You, a simple mountain boy, claim you can succeed where dozens of princes have failed. The Emperor smirked, shaking his head. Very well. If you wish to throw your life away, I will not stop you. But remember this, the dragon is no ordinary beast. It has claimed the lives of warriors far greater than you. I understand, Eric replied, his voice steady. But I must try. Giselle deserves her freedom. The Emperor waved a dismissive hand. Go then. If you succeed, the rewards will be yours. But don't expect me to mourn your loss. Eric and Chub left the palace, the weight of the Emperor's doubt lingering behind them. Outside, the sky stretched wide and blue, and the tower of the Black Mountain loomed faintly in the distance. Don't let his words trouble you, Chub said as they walked. You have something the others did not. What's that? Eric asked. Me, Chub replied with a playful snort. Eric chuckled, his spirits lifting. Together they set off toward the Black Mountain, unaware of the trials that awaited them. The first trial came as they entered a dense forest. The trees stood like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches weaving a canopy that blocked the sun. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled through the air, and a massive bear emerged from the shadows. Its eyes gleamed with malice, and its claws glinted like daggers. You dare trespass in my forest, the bear roared. Turn back or face my wrath. Eric hesitated, but Chub stepped forward, unafraid. Speak to him with strength, Chub advised. He respects power, not fear. Eric strengthened his back and met the bear's gaze. We mean no harm, he said firmly. But we will not be stopped. If you wish to fight, then fight me. But know this, I will not give up. The bear roared and charged, its massive paws tearing through the earth. Eric dodged to the side, drawing his hunting knife. With Chub's guidance, he evaded the bear's powerful swipes, staying just out of reach. Finally, as the bear lunged again, Eric stepped aside and thrust his knife into the ground between them. I won't kill you, Eric said, his voice ringing with conviction. There's no honor in spilling your blood, but neither will I turn back. The bear halted, its chest heaving as it studied Eric. Then, to Eric's surprise, it lowered its head. You are brave, the bear rumbled, and merciful. For that, I will help you. The dragon's flames cannot be extinguished by ordinary means. Seek the water of the moonlit spring. It will quench even the hottest fire. With that, the bear stepped aside, allowing Eric and Chub to pass. As night fell, they came to a rocky ravine. The moon hung low and full, casting eerie shadows on the jagged cliffs. A chilling howl pierced the air, and from the darkness emerged a werewolf. Its fur was silver, and its eyes burned with hunger. "Who dares cross my domain?" the werewolf snarled, its voice a mix of man and beast. "Your journey ends here." Chub whispered urgently, "Do not fight him as a beast. Speak to the man within him." Eric nodded and called out, "I see the man you were, not the monster you've become. Let us talk, not fight." The werewolf hesitated, its claws twitching. "Talk," it spat. "What do you know of me?" "I know you weren't always like this," Eric said, stepping closer. "Let me pass, and I'll show you the respect you deserve." The werewolf lunged, its claws slashing toward Eric. But Eric stood his ground, holding Chub's gaze for courage. As the beast's paw swiped past him, Eric grasped a charm around the werewolf's neck, a relic of its human life. "You've lost yourself," Eric said softly, "but there's still hope." The werewolf froze, its breath ragged. Slowly, its eyes softened, and it stepped back. "You are wise beyond your years," it growled. "For your kindness, I will aid you. The dragon's scales are impervious to steel, but the flowers of the crimson thorn will weaken them. Seek them at the base of the Black Mountain." Eric bowed his head in gratitude, and the werewolf vanished into the shadows. The final trial came at dawn, as they neared the foot of the Black Mountain. A crooked hut stood in their path, smoke curling from its chimney. From within came a cackling laugh, and the door creaked open to reveal an old witch. "Well, well," she crooned, her eyes glinting with malice. "A boy and his buffalo. What brings you to my doorstep?" "We're on a journey to free the Emperor's daughter," Eric said. The witch's laughter echoed through the air. "Foolish boy, do you think you can defeat the dragon? You'll need more than courage for that." Chub leaned close to Eric. "Her power lies in her pride," he whispered. "Flatter her, and she may help you." Eric stepped forward. "Your wisdom is renowned, great lady," he said. "Surely you know how to defeat the dragon. Will you share your knowledge?" The witch's eyes narrowed, but she seemed pleased by his words. "Very well," she said. "The dragon's heart is its weakness, but it is guarded by shadow. To strike through, you will need a weapon blessed by the sun itself. Take this shard of sunlight." She handed him a golden dagger that glowed faintly in the light. "Use it wisely," she warned, and with a flick of her wrist, she vanished. At last, Eric and Chub reached the tower. Flames licked the sky, and the roar of the dragon shook the earth. The beast emerged, its scales gleaming and its eyes burning with malice. Eric remembered the bear's words and used the water of the moonlit spring to douse the dragon's flames. As the fire sputtered out, he scattered the crimson thorn flowers, weakening the dragon's scales. Finally, armed with the golden dagger, Eric charged. The dragon roared and lashed out with its claws, but Chub shielded Eric, deflecting the blows with his enchanted strength. With a final leap, Eric plunged the dagger into the dragon's heart. The beast let out a deafening roar, then collapsed, its body dissolving into ash. In the tower, Giselle waited, her beauty radiant and her gratitude boundless. Together, Eric and Chub led her back to the Emperor, who kept his promise. Eric and Giselle were wed, and Chub, ever faithful, joined them in the palace, his celestial nature a secret shared only by those who knew his heart. And so, a poor young man from the mountains became a hero, proving that courage, kindness, and wisdom could triumph over even the greatest of evils. Dear friends, our story came to an end. I hope it brought a touch of magic to your evening and carried you closer to the land of dreams. May your sleep be deep and peaceful, and may the adventures of Eric and Chub linger gently in your imagination. If you're still awake and enjoyed tonight's tale, I warmly invite you to like this story and subscribe to my channel. Together we can share more journeys, more wonder, and more stories to carry us into the night. Good night, my dear listeners. Sweet dreams.